Revealed, my daughter's shocking text about the Cabo trip, how I transformed my family's future. Brian's hands were calloused and stained with grease as he wiped the sweat from his brow. The smell of oil was familiar, wrapping around him like an old friend. Another long day at his mechanic shop, just to keep the lights on and food on the table for his precious daughter, Emma. But as he patched up an old Ford, another worry nagged at him: he was losing his daughter. Then came that fateful text, a photo of Emma's classmates, beaming with excitement as they prepped for a trip to Cabo. A world away from their modest life, it struck a nerve deep in his chest. Emma's vibrant smile in that photo felt like a dagger. She used to light up every room, but recently, the sparkle in her eyes dimmed. He could see the shift, the way she retreated into her room, the door often closed with a silence that felt heavier than a lead balloon. No longer did she bounce through the living room, sharing her day. Now, it was as if a wall had sprung up between them. A familiar ache twisted in Brian's gut, making him ache to fix it. Determined love bubbled within him. This could not be the way. He couldn't let her miss out on life's adventures, all because of his limitations. So, fueled by hope and the relentless American spirit, he quickly hatched a plan. He started a side hustle, fixing bikes and repairing small engines after hours. He imagined every pedal he tightened and every chain he oiled brought him one step closer to brightening Emma's world, but the path was littered with challenges. Some neighbors scoffed at his efforts, as if repairing bicycles was beneath them. He felt their judgment like a weight pressing down on him. Yet, the heart of the neighborhood beat strong in other ways. Some rallied around him, becoming his cheerleaders at the local barbecues, spreading the word about his services. Their encouragement felt like a warm hug on cold nights. Just when a flicker of promise appeared, temptation crawled in as well. A job offer landed in his lap, one that would secure Emma's future. Bigger paycheck, but the kind of work that made his stomach churn. Compromise haunted him, gnawing at his conscience. As he sat in his garage, wrestling with this decision, a glimmer of hope crossed his mind, the possibility of a better life that wouldn't require giving up who he was. Then came another text from Emma, a video this time, candidly sharing her doubts and feelings of inadequacy. Her vulnerability hit Brian hard. He realized they were both drowning in their respective struggles. He knew this conversation would shake everything between them. Tears prickling at his eyes, he stepped towards her room, prepared for a heart-to-heart that would challenge everything he thought he knew. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each step toward her, fears and dreams clashed inside him. He was ready to share his burdens, ready to reveal the turmoil in his heart. But would it be enough to bridge the widening gap between them? The air thickened as he knocked softly, uncertainty whispering in his ear, prompting him to question everything. Would their love shine through the struggle, or would desperation and choices threaten to tear them apart forever? Brian knocked gently on Emma's door, his heart racing. Silence greeted him at first. Did she even want to talk? A wave of doubt washed over him, but he pushed it aside. He had to try. Emma, it's Dad. Can we talk? The door creaked open, revealing Emma's face, shadowed by uncertainty. But as their eyes met, something shifted. The walls she built around her heart felt like they began to crumble, if only for a moment. Hey, Dad, she said softly, stepping aside to let him in. The colorful posters on her walls and the clutter of books on the floor felt so familiar yet strangely distant at the same time. Brian took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. I saw your video, he began, his voice thick with emotion. You don't have to face this alone, you know. I'm struggling too. Her brow furrowed, confusion playing across her features. What do you mean? He rubbed the back of his neck, searching for the right words as she sat cross-legged on the bed, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "I've been worried about you. And honestly, I feel like I've been failing as your dad. You seem so distant lately." Emma looked down, picking at a loose thread on her blanket. "I just feel lost. Everyone else is doing great traveling, having fun, and I'm just here." Brian's heart ached at her words. "You're not just here, Emma. You're amazing. I see this spark in you. You're going to do things that will blow everyone away. But you don't have to do it alone." Tears glistened in her eyes. "But what if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough?" The question pierced Brian's heart. He understood her doubt all too well. What if you are? What if you just give it a shot? The best things in life don't come easy. And sometimes, our fears can hold us back from discovering who we really are. A silence hung in the air, heavy with shared fears and unspoken love. Emma absorbed his words, her gaze flickering between hope and uncertainty. "Dad," she finally whispered, "what if you're not good enough either?" His world stopped for a brief second. It was a question that etched itself into the fabric of his soul. He chuckled softly, trying to ease the tension. "You know, I've been thinking about that too. But I'm trying. I'm working late, fixing bikes, doing whatever it takes to make life a little better for us. It doesn't mean I have it all figured out." She nodded slowly, her vulnerability drawing them closer. "I just want to be like you, Dad. Strong and brave." "Then let us be strong together," he said, his voice steady. "I have a plan. I want to take you on an adventure, something that'll remind you just how incredible you are." Her eyes widened with surprise, hope beginning to illuminate the shadows of her fears. "Really? Like where?" Brian paused, the weight of his own dreams crashing into reality. "Cabo, maybe. I know it sounds crazy, but together, we can make it work." Emma's breath caught, the glimmer of excitement cutting through her uncertainty like a beam of sunlight breaking through dark clouds. "Are we really? Yeah. We can do this. I promise," he said, feeling the muscles in his heart flex and stretch. As they shared a tentative smile, the door to possibilities creaked open ever so slightly. But little did Brian know, the decision to chase the dream would unveil unexpected challenges that would test their bond even further. Emma's joy was palpable, but shadows loomed in the corners, old wounds ready to emerge as they took this leap into the unknown. As they began planning their Cabo trip, doubts lingered in the air like that unmistakable scent of oil and gasoline, familiar yet unsettling. Would this journey truly transform their lives, or merely serve to highlight the cracks beneath the surface? Brian and Emma spent days poring over travel websites, their laughter echoing through the house as they envisioned sunsets on a beach and adventures exploring hidden caves. Each new detail seemed to bring them closer. The how-tos of packing and planning were mere distractions from the deeper discussions that were slowly taking root. One evening, while they hunched over a laptop in the dim light of the kitchen, Emma suddenly paused, staring at the screen. "Dad, what if it's not just about the trip for me?" Her voice caught in her throat, the weight of her words hanging in the air like thick fog. "What do you mean?" Brian leaned back in his chair, feeling a flicker of concern. Emma bit her lip, trying to articulate her swirling thoughts. "I mean, what if this is my chance to figure out who I am? What if I can't find myself in Cabo?" Brian felt a pang in his chest. He had hoped this trip would spark joy, but now it felt like a heavy burden. "You will find yourself. Just remember, it's okay to feel lost sometimes. That's part of growing up. Just take it one step at a time." But Emma shrugged, the spark in her eyes dimming. "What if I disappoint you? Or worse, what if I disappoint myself?" Brian reached across the table, placing his hand on hers. "Hey, this isn't about expectations. It's about discovering who you are, and I'll support you no matter what. We're in this together, remember?" Emma nodded, but her expression remained clouded. "I just wish I could be as brave as you think I am." Bravery isn't the absence of fear, he said gently. Bravery is doing what scares you anyway. That night, Brian lay in bed staring at the ceiling, turning her words over in his mind. What if this trip left them more fractured than before? He often felt like a shadow of the man he used to be. Was he truly strong enough to guide them both toward a better future? Days flew by, and the countdown to their departure felt like both a thrill and a tightening coil. They packed late into the night, both bursting with excitement and a shared sense of unease. As they arranged their belongings, Emma pulled out her phone. Scrolling quickly, her face fell. "Dad, can we leave a day early? My friends are going to be at the beach the same time we are, and they want me to meet them." Brian's stomach twisted. "Emma, we talked about this. The point is for us to bond, not for you to reconnect with friends. What if I need that too?" She shot back, the stress of the situation turning the edge of her voice sharp. Brian took a deep breath, sensing the growing divide between them. "It's just I thought we agreed this would be our time to connect, to heal." Silence trailed between them. Emma stared down at her phone, the glow illuminating her uncertain face. "Maybe I'm not ready for that yet." His heart thudded heavy with disappointment. "Maybe we both aren't." They reached a stalemate, each stuck in their own turmoil, the excitement of their adventure now tangled in sadness and confusion. As a reminder of their distance, the clock ticked, their departure looming closer, and the once bright prospects of Cabo started to feel like anxiety spreading in the pit of his stomach. "Emma," he finally said, breaking the silence, "we've got a lot to work through. I care about you, and I want this to work. Can we just talk?" She nodded slowly, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. "I want that too, Dad. But I'm scared." Brian felt the sting of her fear, a familiar ache in his chest as he realized it mirrored his own. Just as he opened his mouth to reassure her, his phone buzzed sharply on the table, the sound shattering the fragile moment. The text that came through appeared innocent at first, but when he read it, his heart dropped. It was a message from Emma's best friend. "I can't believe you're going to Cabo without us. You have to meet us there, it'll be epic. We need to catch up before the summer ends." The urgency in the message was palpable, a familiar voice calling Emma back to the past at a time when her future felt uncertain. His mind raced as he realized, this trip might be less about escape and more about facing what lay beneath the surface. "Emma," he began, but he could see her growing turmoil reflected in her eyes. What had he gotten them into? As excitement turned to dread, the uncertainty of their journey loomed large. Would they reconnect, or would this trip become another reminder of the distance between them? The shadows deepened, and the questions multiplied. Could they bridge their divide before their plane took off? As Emma looked back at the words on her screen, Brian felt his own fear wrapping tightly around the hope they'd started to build. The trip to Cabo was supposed to mend, but perhaps it needed to uncover the truth buried deep within them first. The air felt heavier the next morning. Brian stood in the kitchen, the sunlight streaming through the window but doing little to lift the weight in his chest. It was the day they were supposed to leave for Cabo, but all he could think about was the rift slowly widening between him and Emma. Emma wandered into the kitchen with her bag slung over her shoulder. There was a tension in her posture, a kind of fragile anticipation that echoed in Brian's heart. He could sense she was still wrestling with the importance of the trip, torn between newfound independence and the four walls of their shared, complicated past. "Are you ready?" he asked, attempting to keep his tone light, but the quiver in his voice betrayed him. She nodded, but it felt more like an echo than a confirmation. "Yeah, I don't know, Dad. Maybe I shouldn't go at all," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as she absent-mindedly fiddled with the strap of her bag. Brian's stomach tightened again. "What do you mean? We've planned this forever. We'll have fun and figure things out. I don't know if I can do this if I'm not really me." Her face fell. "And what if I just end up hanging out with them instead of spending time with you? I mean, we're supposed to bond, but I don't want to disappoint you." The vulnerability in her confession struck him hard. Disappointment was a feeling they both shared, but the path to healing was so much more daunting than any tropical vacation. "Emma," he said, his voice steady but earnest, "nothing will change how I feel about you. This trip isn't about expectations. It's about being together, no matter what that looks like." She met his gaze, searching for reassurance. "But it feels like I'm stuck between who I was and who I want to be. It's terrifying." Brian's heart ached with understanding. He, too, had been stuck in a cycle, holding on to memories that might have chained him to a past version of himself. Change is scary, but it's also necessary. You're always going to be figuring out who you are, and that's okay. Just because things are different, doesn't mean you owe anyone an explanation. Emma took a deep breath, a flicker of hope dancing in her eyes. "What if I really want to be with you, but I also feel like I should see them?" "Then we make it work," Brian answered, his optimism breaking through the clouds. "We can find a balance." Emma smiled softly, the uncertainty lifted if only just a bit, but he noticed how it didn't erase the apprehension entirely. It was clear they both needed to be brave, for different reasons. With a newfound resolve, they zipped their bags and headed for the door, but as they stepped outside, Emma's phone chimed again. The message was a reminder of the pull of her friends, a bright life that felt out of reach yet so easy to step into. Seeing it brought a momentary pause, the excitement they'd been building suddenly teetering. Brian's heart quickened with both worry and longing. How would they navigate these unsteady waters? "What's the plan?" Emma asked, glancing up at him as if searching for some kind of roadmap to the day. Brian swallowed, knowing that the real journey started now. "We'll decide together," he said firmly. "How about we talk to each other if any doubts creep in as the trip goes on?" "Okay," she replied, and the smallest glimmer of relief crossed her face. As they drove toward the airport, the hum of the road filled the silence, a soft backdrop to their swirling thoughts. Each mile was a reminder of the distance between them physically and emotionally, but they were moving forward, however hesitant. Then it struck him. "Just do one thing for me, Emma," he said suddenly. "Take a moment every morning to check in with yourself while we're there. Ask yourself what you need, who you want to be. Promise me you'll do that." Her brows lifted with curiosity. "Why is that important?" "Because figuring that out is how we really grow," he replied, stealing a glance at her. "And maybe we'll both learn something from it." As they parked and made their way to the terminal, Brian's heart raced not just for the trip ahead, but for the opportunity it offered. Could this be the moment of healing they needed? But as they walked closer to the departure gate, Brian realized something deeper lurked in the shadows. Would the revelations they uncover together deepen their bond, or would the past pull them apart? Emma had her eyes on the horizon, but he could see doubt flickering like a distant star. They were on the brink of a journey, but the stakes felt higher than ever. The terminal buzzed with energy and chatter, a stark contrast to the tumult of emotions swirling within Brian and Emma. Each step toward the gate rang with a mixture of excitement and dread, as if every departure sign was also a reminder of everything they were trying to escape. "Do you want to grab something to eat before we board?" Brian asked, sensing the tension still clinging to Emma like a heavy blanket. "Sure," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of uncertainty. They found a small cafe tucked in a corner, the aroma of brewed coffee hanging in the air. It was comforting, yet it felt trivial against the complexity of what they faced. As they settled into a small booth, Brian attempted to lift the mood. "You remember the last time we were on a plane together? That trip to New York when we got caught in the storm?" Emma smiled faintly, her eyes lighting up momentarily. "Ugh, yes. I thought we were going to die." "It was pretty intense," he chuckled, using humor in hopes of breaking through the wall that had been built between them. "But you know what? We made it through. You threw that little paper airplane at the flight attendant just to keep things simple." "Yes." She didn't even look amused. Emma laughed a little more freely now, and he felt the first ripple of connection in such a long time, but the laughter faded as her phone buzzed again, pulling her attention away. Her brows knit together as she read the message. something unspoken flickering in her eyes. "It's them," she said softly, her voice losing its buoyancy. Brian took a breath, holding back his feelings. "You know, it's okay to miss your friends. It's a big change. We've got a lot of good memories, and those won't disappear if you need to talk to them." She hesitated, her voice trailing off. He could see her battling with her emotions. "I want to be with you, but I also want to feel this freedom. It's so confusing." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "It's okay. You can want both. Just don't be afraid to lean on me. If you feel overwhelmed, we can tackle it together." Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the chaos of the airport faded away. But the moment was brittle, ready to fracture under the weight of their unspoken fears. A boarding announcement echoed, slicing through the silence. Brian was aware that the moment for taking action was now. "Why don't we commit to being open about how we feel? No judgments." Emma squeezed his hand, her expression resolute, but doubt still lingered. "Promise?" "Promise," he nodded, feeling the sincerity pulse between them. They finished their coffees in a comfortable silence, the tension loosening though not entirely gone. With every sip, they seemed to be grounding themselves, preparing for what awaited. As they walked to the gate, Brian's heart raced again. They were on the cusp of something new, but the burden of the unspoken still loomed large over them. What awaited them in Cabo? Would they be able to forge a new bond amidst the uncertainties? As they stepped onto the plane, Emma's phone vibrated again, and she looked at the notification. "What if I can't do this?" she whispered, apprehension etched on her face. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together," he said, the weight of their journey heavy in the air. As the plane taxied down the runway, Emma's gaze drifted out the window, uncertainty and hope warring for space in her heart. Brian settled back in his seat, deeply aware that this trip was more than just a vacation. It was a leap into their future, a chance to breathe, to grow, to redefine what family meant to them. The plane ascended, and Brian felt both exhilaration and dread. What truths would come to the surface? Would the revelations they faced break them down or build them up stronger than they'd ever been before? And as the airplane climbed higher, soaring into the skies ahead, Brian couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something unexpected. The plane leveled out, the hum of the engines a steady rhythm that felt almost meditative. Yet, as Brian stole glances at Emma, he couldn't shake the urgency thrumming beneath the surface. She was staring out the window, waves of color shifting in the sky, but it was clear her mind was miles away. "Hey," he said gently, nudging her to break the trance. "You all right?" Emma blinked, her eyes clearing as she turned to face him. "Just thinking about everything." "What about?" "I don't know." She sighed, shaking her head. "It feels like so much is changing. What if I'm not ready for this?" He wanted to reassure her, to say everything would be okay, but the truth was he felt the same apprehension. "We're both figuring this out, you know." She nodded slowly, as if grappling with the enormity of their shared journey. Both running from pasts that had caught up to them and toward a future that felt foggy and undefined. "Do you remember why we decided to come here?" he asked, hoping to draw her back into a lighter space. "We wanted to find our happy place. Have some adventures." Emma cracked a small smile, the corners of her mouth lifting. "Yeah, but now adventure feels a bit intimidating." "True enough," he laughed, feeling a little lighter himself. "But we can take it one step at a time. Starting with the beach. What do you think?" "I think I'll need sunscreen if I'm going to get in the water," she quipped, her humor creeping back. "Let us add that to our agenda," he said, squeezing her hand again. The connection was fragile but warming, a flicker of hope in the uncertainty. The flight attendants began their service, and Brian ordered a soda while Emma opted for a small snack. The cabin filled with distracted chatter as passengers settled in. Brian looked around, half listening to the conversations around him. A couple excitedly discussed their recent wedding. A man across the aisle was pacing the screen of his tablet, catching up on all the work he missed. Life moved accordingly for everyone, while Emma and he floated in their own bubble of apprehension. Suddenly, the plane jolted slightly, causing Emma to grip her armrest. Her breath quickened as a fleeting worry washed over her face. Was that turbulence? Looks like we hit a small pocket, Brian assured, placing a calming hand over hers as he remembered the storms they had weathered together. We'll be fine. But the trembling of nerves lingered. I keep thinking about what I'm leaving behind, she confessed, eyeing her phone again. What if this trip changes everything? They shared a silence heavy with unspoken fears. The truth was, change was inevitable, but how they responded could make a world of difference. Maybe it will, Brian said quietly, feeling the weight of the words. But change isn't always bad. It can bring us closer, too. The word seemed to settle as a light bulb flickered on in Emma's eyes. You think so? I know so. He leaned closer, his voice low and earnest. This trip could be really good for us. A chance to discover not just Cabo but ourselves and each other. As she searched his gaze, the turbulence of her thoughts began to dissipate. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, and a look of alarm crossed her face. She quickly unlocked it, and her expression shifted from confusion to shock. What is it? Brian asked, leaning in closer. I can't believe they sent this, she stammered, her heart racing in sync with Brian's. Before she could elaborate, the cabin lights dimmed as an announcement echoed through the aircraft, signaling their descent into Cabo. Brian's heart pounded, torn between anxiety for Emma and anticipation for whatever she was about to reveal. Emma, he prompted gently, eager to know what had just unfolded. Torn between her past and their future, she hesitated, her fingers trembling over the screen. You need to see this. What had she just uncovered? What secrets lay in her friend's words that could redefine everything they thought they were embarking on? Emma took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the glowing screen as if searching for an escape. Brian, it's about my mom. Her voice was shaky, barely above a whisper. What do you mean? Brian leaned closer, urgency creeping into his tone. Every muscle in his body was tense, prepared for the news that could shift their fragile foundation. She bit her lip before continuing. It seems she isn't entirely on board with this trip. Emma's fingers hovered above the text, her breathing staccato as she read the message, processing the implications behind her mother's words. What? Why? Brian felt his heart drop. He had hoped this trip was a fresh start for both of them, a way to step into their own stories. She thinks I'm running away from something. That this isn't the right time for me to be with you, Emma confessed. A mix of hurt and frustration colored her voice. She doesn't understand the connection we have. Brian swallowed hard. The weight of Emma's dilemmas was heavy, sinking into his chest. Do you think she's right? He asked carefully, not wanting to push her further down a painful path. I don't know. Her voice trembled, showing the cracks in her normally resilient demeanor. What if she's right? What if this is just me trying to escape? I've been feeling lost, Brian. Maybe I should have talked to her before we decided to take this leap. He squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her. Emma, this is about us. We're both here to discover something together. This trip is our chance to grow. Not just away from our pasts, but toward a future we want. He searched her eyes, hoping to reignite the spark of determination that had fueled their trip in the first place. But what if I find out that I'm not stronger than I thought? What if everything is just harder? Her vulnerability broke through, raw and unfiltered. Brian felt a rush of compassion for her. Emma, that's what this journey is about. Finding strength in discovering who you really are, and I'll be right here to support you, no matter what. The plane began its final descent, the world below becoming clearer, more vibrant. The ocean glimmered like a beckoning promise, and Brian longed for the same brightness to shine within her. Suddenly, Emma's phone buzzed again, pulling her attention away from his words. She glanced at the new message, a mix of emotions washing over her face: confusion, anger, and something deeper. It's from my friend, Sarah, she said, her expression tightening. She's saying things about me, what I need to do, who I need to be. What do you mean? Brian's heart raced, fearing the pieces of this puzzle were starting to come together in an alarming way. Emma read the text aloud. You need to focus on your future, Emma. Don't let Brian distract you from your plans. You're making a mistake. The turbulence returned with a vengeance. Emma's breath hitched, and Brian could see panic flickering behind her eyes. He was losing her again. Emma, but she cut him off, glancing at the phone with disbelief. Why would she say that? Why would anyone think I can't choose my own path? Because they care, he said quietly. But only you get to decide what that path looks like. You have to trust yourself. With every word, a storm brewed inside her. Was she really capable of facing the tide? But what if I fail? She asked, her voice shaking. Then you'll learn. We all fail, Emma. But we don't give up. That's what makes us stronger. The truth of his words hung heavily between them, but doubt still lingered in her eyes. She was caught between expectations and hopes, and he could feel the weight of it pressing down on her. Once the plane touched down, the reality of Cabo loomed ahead, a promise of adventure interspersed with an undercurrent of risk. Brian knew they were on the brink of something monumental. As they gathered their belongings, uncertainty clouded Emma's features. What if I don't like what I find when I look in the mirror? Then we find a way to reshape the reflection together, he said, his voice calm yet firm. But as they stepped into the bright, foreign world of the terminal, something deep in Emma shifted. The weight of her past loomed large, along with the shadows of doubt casting doubt over their journey together. What awaited them in Cabo? Would this trip mend the fractures or deepen the divide? The answers danced just beyond their reach, a kaleidoscope of possibilities waiting to unfold. Yet, one question burned in both their hearts: could they confront the truths that lay ahead, or would the secrets of their past keep them from moving forward? As they stepped out of the terminal, a gust of warm air enveloped them, a vivid contrast to the heavy tension that clung to Emma's shoulders. The vibrant colors of Cabo sprang to life, all shades of turquoise, sandy beiges, and bursts of floral hues, yet all Emma could see was the overlay of doubt that blanketed her heart. Look at that view, Brian said, his voice brimming with excitement as he pointed towards the ocean. Isn't it beautiful? But Emma only offered a weak smile, her mind trapped in a whirlpool of thoughts. How had it come to this? The messages from her mom, Sarah's urgent words, the self-doubt swirling through her mind, it felt like they all conspired to keep her anchored in place. Hey, let's grab our bags and get going. Brian's cheerful energy was infectious, and she took a deep breath, willing herself to shake off the weight. We have a whole trip ahead of us. First things first, let's check into our hotel. With each step toward the car rental area, she fought against the unease creeping into her bones. The sounds of laughter and chatter around her faded into a hum, her anxiety easing in bits as she focused on the simple act of walking beside Brian. When they reached the rental counter, Brian's enthusiasm shone through as he navigated the paperwork and logistical details. Emma watched him, feeling a flicker of gratitude. He was here for her, no matter how much chaos swirled within her. Maybe, just maybe, she could let this trip be a chance to break free. As they climbed into the car, a sleek silver sedan with the windows rolled down, the salty breeze brushed against her skin, inviting her to join the adventure. The radio played soft tunes that wrapped around them like a gentle hug. This was it. She didn't have to be defined by her past choices. Where to first? Brian asked, glancing over with hope in his eyes. Emma hesitated, then took a chance. Let us go to the beach. I need some waves and sun. Now that's the spirit. He grinned, and the car roared to life, pulling them toward the coastline. As they drove, beams of sunlight broke through the clouds, bathing the road ahead in radiant light. Emma began to feel a semblance of hope. What if she could truly carve her path forward? The nagging doubt still loomed, but they felt smaller against the backdrop of this new environment. They arrived at the beach, stepping onto the warm sand, which felt like a capsule full of potential. The rhythmic crash of waves echoed in her ears, a calming reminder that life ebbed and flowed, just like the tide. "Let us splash around," Brian exclaimed, racing toward the water. Emma watched him, laughter bubbling in her chest as he threw his arms wide, embracing the moment. His joy was infectious, pulling her in. Slowly, she walked to the water's edge, feeling the cool surf kiss her toes. With each gentle wave, she closed her eyes, allowing herself to be lost in the warmth of the sun and the sound of the ocean. But then, the moment was interrupted by the nagging ping of her phone. Emma's heart sank as she retrieved it, seeing another message from Sarah pop up on the screen. "Hope you remembered what we talked about. Remember, your future matters." The earlier piece shattered like a fragile shell underfoot. Her shoulders slumped. Was she really here to rediscover herself? Or simply to make everyone else happy? "Everything okay?" Brian's voice broke through her thoughts, his brow furrowed with concern. "Just another message." She hesitated, feeling the weight return. "Sarah thinks I should be focusing on my future, that I'm wasting time here." Brian stepped closer, lowering his voice to match her seriousness. "But isn't this part of your future? Finding yourself?" Emma searched his eyes, wrestling with confusion. Here, beneath the beating sun and endless skies, could she step away from all the voices telling her who to be? "What if I can't?" she finally said, the words barely a whisper. Brian reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then I'll be right here. We'll figure it out together." The world around them faded as she absorbed his promise. For a moment, it felt like the answers might lie ahead, buried beneath the waves, yet a lingering doubt clawed at her heart. Could she truly break free from the expectations tethering her? And at what cost? As they stood at the cusp of the ocean, waves crashing before them, Emma realized they were not just here for the sun or the surf. This trip had the power to reshape everything, but in seeing the depths ahead, the daunting truth settled in. Could she confront what lay beneath the surface, or would she sink under its weight? The sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Emma's heart raced with the beauty around her, but it felt at odds with the turmoil inside. She inhaled deeply, trying to steady her breath, but the weight of Sarah's message pressed heavily against her chest. "Hey, let us go in," Brian called, breaking her out of her spiral. He splashed into the waves, laughter spilling from him like sunlight. It was hard not to smile at his enthusiasm. She felt a flicker of desire to join him, to let the water wash away her fears. Sinking into the soothing rhythm of the ocean, Emma finally took the plunge and waded into the surf. The shock of the cool water sent a shiver through her body, but as she moved deeper, the warmth returned, mingling with the fading sunlight. It felt good alive. Brian was swimming ahead, teasing her to come faster, to let go of whatever was holding her back. "Simon! Try and catch me!" he shouted, playfully splashing water in her direction. Emma laughed, the sound surprising her. She lunged forward, dodging his sprays. In this moment, the doubts faded. There was only the laughter, the waves, and the shimmering horizon. The beach was full of people, families, couples, friends, all enjoying their own stories. For a heartbeat, Emma imagined she could be one of them, free and unencumbered. "Okay, enough splashing," she shouted. "I'm going to show you how it's done." She ducked under a wave, letting the water envelop her completely. Emerging, she tossed her hair back, droplets rising like sparkles in the golden light. Brian cheered, an infectious joy radiating from him. "Now that's more like it. You're a natural." A warmth bloomed in Emma's chest. It was nice, feeling like a part of something vibrant, something alive. But as the laughter continued, Sarah's text loomed in the periphery. Memories of past opportunities and mounting expectations wrestled in her mind. After a few moments of playful water games, Emma began to tire. She stepped back onto the sand, breathing heavily but with a smile on her face. The sun sank lower, painting the world in golden hues that melted into an indigo canvas. "Let us sit for a minute," she suggested, feeling the soft, warm sand beneath her. Brian nodded, his cheeks flushed with excitement as they collapsed side by side. I love this. Just us, the beach. He trailed off, gazing out at the horizon. Emma lowered her gaze to the waves, her smile fading. Brian, I feel lost, she admitted quietly. Is it okay to just be here? To not have everything figured out? Of course it is, he said, turning to face her. His expression was genuine, a mix of understanding and care. Life doesn't come with a map. Sometimes, the journey is about feeling what's in front of you, not worrying about where you should be. She wanted to argue, to cling to her set expectations, but his words struck a chord. Perhaps it was all right to tread lightly, to not have every step planned. Maybe this trip really was about the present, but just as she felt hope blooming anew, her phone buzzed again, slicing through the calm. Another message, another reminder of what she was supposedly lacking. A lump formed in her throat. Do you think I can really find an answer? She questioned, glancing down at the screen, already dreading what awaited her. Finding answers takes time, Brian replied softly. What if the only answer you need right now is to just enjoy being here, being with me? His words were a balm, soothing the cracks in her spirit. She looked at him then, truly looked. There was sincerity in his eyes that made her heart race, a promise of support, of adventure. But what if Sarah is right? What if I'm wasting my future? She whispered, half to herself. Then we'll figure it out together. But I promise you, this moment matters just as much as those future plans. Emma searched for the right response, feeling the weight of two worlds pressing on her. The sound of the waves roared in her ears, urging her to choose a path forward, but which direction would she take? And as the sun finally dipped below the horizon, she found herself at a crossroads between healing and uncertainty. Could she surrender to the unknown, or would she let fear guide her choices? The ocean danced before her, alive and unpredictable. Emma's heart raced anew with the questions swirling within her as the sky turned deep blue, the first stars beginning to twinkle above. Would she brave the depths of her own insecurity, or retreat to the safety of what she thought she should be? The sun had set completely, casting a blanket of darkness over Cabo. Stars twinkled like forgotten dreams in the open sky, illuminating the beach cast in moonlight. Emma sat in the sand, heart racing. The surf lapped against the shoreline, an unending rhythm echoing the tumult of her thoughts. She could feel the weight of uncertainty, but then she looked over at Brian, who clasped his hands behind his head, relaxed and content. Just enjoy this moment, Emma, Brian said, his voice calm. You don't have to solve everything right now. Emma took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs. His easy demeanor was infectious. Each wave crashing reminded her that while life swirled with unpredictability, it also held moments of peace. If only she could grasp that more often. I've been so caught up in my head, Emma murmured, fingers tracing patterns in the sand. What if I really am just running away? Am I making a mistake? Brian shifted to face her, expression earnest. Life is full of choices. Sometimes, you need to step back to see where you truly want to go. This trip could be the beginning of that. The shadows that flickered over his face couldn't hide the resolve in his eyes. He was right. Taking this trip didn't mean she was denying her responsibilities, perhaps it was her chance to embrace them by discovering who she really was. Okay, she said slowly, what if I just allow myself to be here? To stop worrying about everything else? Exactly, he encouraged. Just be here with me. Experience this moment. Emma smiled, the weight on her chest lifting slightly. They sat together, gazing out at the shimmering sea. In that moment, she realized they weren't just taking a physical trip. This was about a journey toward healing, understanding, and growth, a journey for both of them. The next morning, the sun broke through the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. The beach felt alive, filled with other travelers, each carrying their hopes and winding stories. As they walked along the shoreline, Emma felt a newfound sense of strength. Look! Brian pointed toward a group of surfers riding the waves, their laughter floating through the salty air. Can we try that? Surfing? Emma's eyes sparkled with excitement and nerves. I've never done that before. Exactly. Just like life, right? We try things, fall, and try again. He laughed, and she couldn't help but join in, the joy of spontaneity washing over her. They signed up for a lesson, the thrill of uncertainty bubbling inside her as the instructor explained the basics. When it was finally Emma's turn to catch a wave, doubt crept in again. What if I fail? She thought, glancing back at Brian, who was cheering her on from the shore. Just ride the wave. He shouted, his voice full of belief. Taking a breath to steady herself, she waded into the water, each hit of the waves reminding her to push through the fear, not away from it. As she caught her first wave and stood up, the exhilaration made her feel alive. She didn't just balance on the board, she found balance within herself, laughter erupted as she fell, splashing salt water everywhere. But each time she wiped her face, she met Brian's wide grin, reflecting pride and love back at her. This is incredible. She shouted, joy bubbling over. An hour flew by, and suddenly the day felt brighter, the weight of past expectations lightening under the sun's warmth. They raced back to their hotel, tired but buoyed by new memories. Later that evening, they sat at a beachfront restaurant, the golden sunset wrapping around them like a cozy blanket. As they enjoyed their meals, Brian reached for Emma's hand across the table. I can see you've changed already, he said softly. You're brighter. Emma felt warmth bloom in her chest, his words unraveling the last of her insecurities. It's amazing what a little freedom can do, huh? Exactly. And you deserve all the adventures along with it, he replied, a twinkle of mischief in his eyes. So, what's next? I want to explore more. I think I want to try snorkeling tomorrow, Emma proposed, exhilaration threading. Her voice, she watched as Brian's face lit up, his excitement contagious. Absolutely. Let us go find some fish. As they planned their next adventure, Emma felt light, the fears about her friends and her mother merged into background noise. She was forging her own path, one filled with vibrant colors and possibilities. The trip went on, filled with laughter and adventure. They explored hidden caves, tried local cuisine, and bonded over stories by candlelight. With each passing day, Emma's sense of self grew stronger, the shadows of self-doubt lifting like mist on a sunny morning. By the time they prepared to leave Cabo, Emma looked back at the ocean, knowing it had transformed her as much as she had transformed it. I'm ready. I want to face whatever comes next, she told Brian, excitement rushing through her veins. As they flew home, the view from the window held not just distant landscapes but hope for the horizons yet to come. Brian leaned back, sighing contentedly. You did it. You faced your fears. Emma beamed, sun-kissed and revitalized. Thanks for believing in me. And for reminding me to believe in myself, he replied, a smile illuminating his face. As they touched down, the glowing lights of home surrounded them. Emma was ready to share this new version of herself, one that was bold, true, and most importantly unapologetically her own. The journey had just begun, and whatever lay ahead, she knew she could face it, not just for herself, but with the unwavering love of family beside her. And so, as they stepped out of the airport and into their new beginnings, she breathed in the familiar air, filled with the scent of possibility. Emma turned to Brian, their eyes meeting, and in that shared gaze, they both recognized a transformation that would carry them forward into whatever adventures awaited. Don't wait not even one more second. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach even more friends. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this inspiring ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans know the importance of this support. Let us keep this journey going together.